I liked the first. I'm holding the first. No, I'm holding the second one. Hello, everybody. My name is Kelsey, and we're about to get very, very nerdy with my April wrap up. So this is the second time I'm filming this video because when I did it the first time, my audio decided to disappear after I think I made it through the stats, but I didn't realize that until I'd filmed the whole video. So great fun. So we're gonna try again and just hope that this works. So I would recommend any book that I talk about if you're interested in. I think everything in this video except for the very last book, which is a manga, I talked about in a vlog. So go check those out, or go check out my Goodreads reviews because I have better descriptions, just because now it's been even longer since I've read these, so I'm not sure I'm going to do the best job. But we're here. We're going to talk about April. I read 5 things in April. If you remember, April was the Magical Readathon. I failed. So I did not do the best there. I think I had 8 books that I was like required to read, and I've rearranged it a little bit that I'm giving myself grace, so like I've finished other things since April ended and I'm gonna count them. But I didn't do great in April, which is why you only saw two vlogs. I was thinking about doing weekly vlogs, and then I basically combined the first 2 into a vlog, and then the 4th one I started and then didn't really do anything with, and the month ended, so like we just scrapped that one totally. So April was interesting. It was also one of the more busy months for my job, so I just didn't have a ton of extra time, which is fine. But May should be better. But this shouldn't be a particularly long video, so strap in. I don't even think you need to get yourself a drink or a hot beverage, but feel free to. And let's look at the stats real quick. So like I mentioned, I read 5 things in April, which was over 1,715 pages, which was about 48 and a half hours listened. And that was 1 physical book and 4 mixed. So I did a lot more physical reading this month, because mixed usually means audiobook while I'm physically reading, and they kind of go back and forth. So age category is more spread out for me. I mean, it's not, but they're not all adult books. So like, that helps. So you had 1 middle grade, 1 YA, and 3 adult. Genres, we had 1 romance, 2 fantasy, and 2 mystery. And then ratings, we had 1 5-star and 4 4 stars. The first book that I finished in the month of April was The Violin Conspiracy by Brendan Slocum. I gave this one 5 stars. Trigger warnings in this book for racism, specifically racial slurs. I mean, racism is a big part of this story, but like the N-word is used multiple times in this book. Not by our main character, it's by other characters, and it's not like in the narration, it's in like dialogue, which kind of reminds me of like, I think Mark Twain did the same thing in some of his books. Anyway, just so you know that that's there, because it startled me when I read it for the first time. So this book follows our main character, Ray, and he is a very well-known violinist, and he is about to embark on the Tchaikovsky competition, which I believe was in Russia. He is one of the people that like they talked about, and he's been doing violin for quite a while. His violin is very, very well known as a Stradivarius, and it's worth like $10 million. Well, the book starts with his violin going missing, and it's a whole investigation, and then the middle chunk of the book goes back in time to when he's in high school, and kind of like that's when he started a little bit, like, I mean, he's been playing for a while, but like that's when things really get started for him, and we follow his life up to the present to figure out how we got to where we are. And so the beginning kind of lays out some key players, like his family, and then this other family who claims ownership of the violin, and there's a legal battle there, and so he brings those up as like possible people who could have stolen his violin, and then we go back and we learn why. So what I found really interesting about this book is that it has this mystery, but the middle chunk, you kind of, or at least I forgot the mystery was happening, and we just focused on Ray as a person, and I loved him. I was so invested in his story. It's very character driven. I mean, there is a plot, but it's kind of like it takes a backseat to learning who Ray is. I'm telling you, like, we were in the middle of like getting to know him, and I kind of forgot that the whole point of this book was that his violin went missing, and I was just invested in him as a person. So this is, I would say, more character-driven, specifically Ray, than plot-driven, which are books I prefer plot-driven books, but, like, every once in a while, a character-driven book works for me, and this is one of those. So it was well done. It had me guessing the entire time. Like, I did not guess the whodunit at all. Person wasn't even on my radar, which is well done because if you look back, like, all the clues were there, but it just did not happen for me. But I really, really enjoyed this. This was a recommendation from my husband, so yay him. But what I found the most interesting about this is that Ray is a Black musician, and he's in the classical world, and so this tackles conversations of racism under the umbrella of classical music. And I thought that was really interesting because I feel like these conversations are things that are had in every facet of life, every department, every work group. Like, it doesn't matter what it is, these conversations happen all the time. This is just the lens that we're seeing them through because the author himself is a Black, classically trained, I think he's trained, musician. I thought that was really interesting because this book is full of examples of microaggressions. And there are some macro, don't get me wrong, there are some very obvious situations. But there's a lot of little itty bitty moments that, like, if you're someone like me who was white and definitely has white privilege, I wouldn't notice those on a daily, whereas obviously Ray notices those and pinpoints them. And as a reader, you kind of, my eyes were definitely opened to some situations that I may not have been aware of before. And so I just thought it was a really well done book. I thought that it was a very interesting lens to tell it through, especially because, like, my background is ballet and classical music, and so, like, this is an area that, like, I know really well ish, and so it was nice to have, like, those examples and something that I understand, if that makes sense. So I liked this book a lot. I thought Ray was a fascinating character. I found the story fascinating. I hated everybody else in the story, like, not because they were written badly, because they were actually terrible people, and you're supposed to hate them. Specifically, his family. Like, his family was genuinely awful, except for his grandmother and one aunt, and so you're supposed to hate them. And it was written so well that I did. And so anytime something happened to Ray, I was like, I'm about to slap someone. So I was very heavily invested. I think I read this in like 2 days, maybe a little bit more than that. But very well done. I liked it. If you like classical music, if you want a character study in the South, this your book. The next book that I finished was Tell No One by Harlan Coben. I gave this one 4.5 stars. This was a murder mystery book that I read for my book club that I do every month. And so I went into this book with some preconceived notions, I will admit, based on the idea of this thriller based on when it was written, because it came out in the early 2000s, and I figured that some conversations and some characters would not be handled well as they might be in a thriller today. I was so wrong. So this follows our main character, whose name I'm totally blanking on at the moment, but it starts 8 years after his wife was kidnapped and murdered, and he gets an email. And this email has some information in it that only his wife would know. And he's like, what? And then a side plot that's not really a side plot. These two bodies were discovered very close to where her body was discovered. And the FBI who's investigating them, there's some links, and so they've kind of reopened his wife's murder a little bit, and are looking at him as the prime suspect. And so, I mean, he was the prime suspect, obviously, way back when, because, like, if someone dies and they have a partner, the partner is probably the first person that the police are going to look at. It's always been like that. So he didn't take it badly back then. But they're looking at him again, just because of some of the similarities, and also, like, they were at his cabin when this happened, and I swear one of the FBI agents has it out for him. Anyway, so he's just kind of figuring stuff out, just trying to figure out if his wife, actually died or not, because he was not the one who identified her body. I think he was at the police station, or like he was being interrogated when that happened. So her father and uncle are the ones who interrogated her. So he has lots of questions, and he gets the help of a lot of people, but one of them is his best friend, who happens to be married to his sister. So um, they are very, very close, and she's there for him basically the entire time and kind of helps him out. So what I liked about this book was there were so many incredible twists and turns. There's a lot of stuff that was handled very well. Um, our main character is a pediatrician. I want to say he's a pediatric. No, I always want to say he's a pediatric surgeon, but I don't think he is. I think he's just like a pediatric doctor. But he takes care of a lot of the less fortunate, less wealthy clients, and that is handled pretty well. He gets the help of basically a gang member this entire book, and I never thought that I would root so hard for like someone who was very obviously doing a lot of crime. Um, but I loved this guy. He was really lovely and helped the doctor because the doctor helped his son. Like it was one of those things like they have a preconceived or a pre-existing relationship, and I just their friendship made me really happy. It is in a very strange way, but like there were so many twists and turns in this book. Like every time I thought I'd figured something out, something happened. Like literally, there was one final twist in like the last 2 or 3 pages of the book. It just had me guessing the entire time. I mean, I was trying to collect clues every time I figured out something. I was like, ah, this person did this one thing. No, and there was all these side plots that like side stories that felt like just throwaway things, and then they came back and were like a big part of the whole thing. I don't it was lovely. It was, I mean, lovely is not the right word. It was very fun ride. I was on the edge of my seat from basically the first couple of chapters, and I am very like I enjoyed it so much I want to get a copy of this book at some point. I think it'd be really interesting. I would love my husband to read it. I don't think there's anything I didn't write down any trigger warnings. I don't think there's anything specific. I mean, it's a thriller, so it's about murder. So like be wary, because like we are in a few different perspectives, and one of the perspectives is definitely the bad guys. And so there's a really, really bad guy that does some torture stuff. So like I guess be wary of that. Just general terrible people. But there's nothing like specific that I pinpointed. Uh, but it was very well written. It was very fleshed out well. I liked the characters because they were so incredibly flawed, but they also felt so incredibly human. Like his best friend, she has so many issues. There's definitely some issues in her marriage. They have a son together, so they kind of stick together because of the son, and through that, they kind of work things out. They were just really fleshed out, so they felt like real people. Some of the cops, like there's a cop that I'm thinking of in my head, like he was out to get the husband the whole time, and he definitely made some mistakes, but he owned up to those mistakes. And so you have that, you have a very flawed main character. Like everybody was just so human. And I just really liked that. So I apologize for my preconceived notions going into the story, but like it was so well done, and I'm so glad I read it. The next book was my 5-star read of the month, and it was The 13th Child by Erin A. Craig. I so loved this book. I'm so glad I bought it. Like, I just randomly bought it on Amazon because I had a feeling like one of the prompts would fit for this one. And I just had been kind of wanting to pick this one up a lot recently. Picked it up from Amazon, just like a normal hardback, didn't think anything of it, and apparently it was a signed copy. And I'm so glad I picked this up. I did not tab it, so I need to reread it because there's definitely a lot of things that I wanted to tab and highlight, but I was so into the story that I didn't even think about tabbing any of it, which I feel like says a lot. So, trigger warnings for this before I dive into it is mentions of suicide and the medical procedures, because our main character is a healer, and then just like the gore that comes from that. So this book follows our main character Hazel, and she is the 13th child. And when she was born, her parents promised her to one of the gods, specifically the god of death, and he is her godfather now, and he's supposed to come get her, and he just doesn't for a long time. He eventually does when she turns, I think it's her 12th birthday is when he actually comes to get her, and he takes her and basically tells her that she's going to become a healer. She has this power. 13th children are more powerful just in general, or have more ability to be powerful, have like some magic in them, and she spends basically a year maybe 2 years, just learning everything she knows about anatomy. And then her godfather, she calls him Merrick, he presents her with a skill where she can tell if someone, like, what's wrong with them. So like she can touch them and like this tree kind of grows. It's a magical tree that only she can see, and on it it'll tell her like what is ailing them, and then she uses the knowledge that she has gained over the last year or so to heal them. Now on the flip side of that, they also, instead of a tree, sometimes people are presented with like a skull, and that means that they need to die. Like you can't save them. There's nothing you can do to save them. So you might as well help them move into the next life humanely. And so she does this a few times, and those people actually like legitimately haunt her. And so you have this story. So basically this book just follows Hazel's life because you have that, and then she ends up getting called to the castle because the king is really sick, and she is called to heal him and all of the fallout and political mess that comes from that. So I loved this story because Hazel was so interesting to follow, because you follow her from like age 9 to basically her whole life. And you see her go from young child who just wants to be loved because her parents are awful, her family is terrible. She has one brother that actually kind of likes her, and he doesn't stay long. And she is treated terribly because she's the 13th child. She is the last one. She shouldn't be there. She should have been taken when she was born, and she wasn't. And how dare this God not take her? Like, we've been taking care of her for like 13 years. How could you not take her? Like, we should be compensated for that. Like, that's the way her parents are. Like, she is, because they're taking care of her, she's given like the worst food because they're already like struggling. So she's given the worst food or no food. She doesn't have a bed, she sleeps in the barn, and her parents do not think highly of her at all. And so that translates to her family not particularly thinking highly of her. And so she has a terrible upbringing, and then this godfather finally comes, and you see her turn into this child that like is trying to learn, is trying to please, even if it's not what she wants to do. And then she does discover that healing is lovely, and she like that's what she wants to do with her life, but she doesn't like the reverse side of it, which is killing people. And so then you see her kind of transition into a teenager and fall in love, and like that rivalry that you kind of get from like a teenager and a parent. And then becoming an adult and figuring out what she wants with her life, and then kind of pushing back against what Merrick wants for her life. And there's this very interesting dynamic between the two of them, because you've got all of that. Like, he basically takes on a parent role. I mean, he becomes her parent. And so you've got that. But at the same time, he's a very absent parent because he usually just shows up on her birthday because he's a god. He's got 1,000 other things that he's doing. But he also, time moves differently for him. And so what could feel like forever for her feels like nothing for him. And then they also view things very differently. Like, she regrets the lives that she's taken. She knows, like, there's a lot of repercussions. So, like, if she didn't take someone's life, like, for example, there's one person who is very, very sickly, and their son is on the way to visit them with his new bride. And if they are still alive when the son comes, then, you know, he could become sick and spread it to his wife, and then spread it to his wife's family, and like this kind of like, you know, ripple effect. And so she is saving a lot of lives, but she doesn't see that. And so she just remembers the one life that she took. And Merrick is very startled when she mentions that like these lives haunt her, and he goes, "Do you feel regret for that?" And she goes, "Absolutely, I do. Like, I understand why I'm doing it. I know it's for the greater good, but it still sucks, and I still hate it." And so, just some of these conversations they have, I just really liked their dynamic. I thought it was really well done because like he very much cares for her. So when she does something that he doesn't like, he figures out a way. Like, he's mad at her, but like they kind of get past it. And I just like seeing that relationship through this story. And just some of the magical elements are very well done in here, because like she kind of steps into his world a couple of times and sees what he sees, and it's very interesting for her. And then there's some other gods that are out there that are very meddlesome. That's not a word, but like they meddle in humans' lives. Specifically one god, the god of chaos. Surprise. It's so well written as well. Like, this is what I remember from the other book that I read by Aaron A. Craig, is that it's not lyrical. Like, I don't want to call it a poetic writing style, but it's a very atmospheric writing style. So like it's not straightforward. It's very it's like, I don't want to call it flowery, but it's kind of flowery, but it's flowery to the point of like you feel like you are physically where the characters are. So like if she's in a cottage and she's explaining this cottage, you feel like you are now sitting in the cottage with them and you can really see this cottage. And I just love that. The plot was fantastic. It does follow Hazel's life. Like that is kind of the point of the book, but there is this other plot of her, like the culmination of the plot, the climax of the plot is her at this royal court and what happens when she does things there. So there is a plot. It's not a character study. It is plot driven, but you also have like it's basically like the plot and the character study of her life are parallel and they both get very even an even amount of time in this book to be talked about. So I very much enjoyed this. I'm so happy I have a copy. I remember really enjoying, I think it was Salt in the Sea or whatever that other book is, House of Salt and Sorrow. That's what it is. I really enjoyed that, but there was just something about this book that just like blew that one out of the water. So if you want like a very atmospheric, very like it's not gothic, but it's gothic leaning story about a girl who and like you learn about the healer, like how she becomes a healer, and it's fascinating. Like I never thought I would care about learning about someone becoming the profession that they are, and here I am, heavily invested in them as a person. I don't know how to explain this. It was fantastic. I highly recommend. Very well done. I did take my time with this one, so it took me a little bit to get through, but like I was purposely taking my time. I was enjoying it. I was reading it when I really wanted to pick it up and I could give it attention. And I think that works really well. And the characters are really well done. And there is a romance, but it's not a big part of the plot. It's kind of like a secondary thought. So like that's probably the one part that I would say is somewhat of a negative within this book is that like the romance is there, but it felt very like thrown in last minute. Like it's not the main point of the plot, which is fine, but I feel like the buildup of it is lacking a little bit. But again, it's not the main point. It's just kind of there. And so I don't know. I still really enjoyed it. I still give it 5 stars. Please read. It's so good. The next book that I picked up was The Last Dragon on Mars by Scott Rantgen. This is the first in the Dragon Ships series. It's also the only one that's out. This is a middle grade. This is it's got lots of genres. It's a sci-fi fantasy dystopian. Like if you took those three genres, you put them in a blender and you like but make it dragons, that's what this book is. So I gave this 4.5 stars. I very much enjoyed this book, but I also didn't have any idea what I was doing. Or let me clarify, I went into this book and for the first like let's say 25%, I was so confused because I couldn't wrap my brain around the genres because this feels sci-fi. Like it is a sci-fi. They are on Mars, they're talking about spaceships, they're learning about technology, all that kind of stuff, but there are dragons. That's the center of the story is each planet, each star, each moon, each whatever, a dragon controls that thing. And the bigger the planet is, the bigger the dragon is. And so that's like, it's sci-fi, but it's dragons. And also there's this dystopian element feel to it. We follow our main character, Lunar, who lives on Mars. He's a Martian, but he's human. And he is living in this world that like is falling apart because they are kind of like a subsect of Earth, but Earth's not taking care of them. Earth actually kind of has given up on them. And so it's very like he goes out and scraps items for money so that he can feed his family. Or like he basically lives in this orphanage of sorts where he is in charge and he scraps for money so that like people he lives with will survive. And so it has that element to it as well. But like again, there are dragons. So like you see why I was very like I couldn't like pinpoint what was going on. My brain couldn't quite compute that it was sci-fi with dragons. Like it did. I loved it. Clearly, I gave it 4.5 stars. I loved the story. I loved these characters. I loved the world that was built. But at first, I was like trying to figure out what was going on. So that's why I didn't get a full 5-star, but like I am heavily invested in the story. I cannot wait for the second one to come out. This one is definitely also older middle grade, I would say, because like our main character is 13, I think, in this book. And so he is definitely on the older side of middle grade. He's technically a teenager, but he basically deals with death every day. It's normal for him. And that's a pretty tough subject to have in a middle grade. So that's why I say, and that's not the only subject that is like that, but that's why I say this leans towards the older middle grade, because it's written very simplistically, as far as like what you would expect a middle grade to be written like, but the world is a little complex. And then you have these themes that are important and should be talked about, but like maybe younger kids may not quite grasp what's going on. And like maybe they would enjoy it because it's dragons, and like that part would just kind of like go over their heads. I don't know. My kid's not old enough for me to figure that out yet. But like just some of the topics makes me think that's why it's a little bit better for older. Speaking of the world, I mentioned it was kind of complex, and it is. But what I liked about it is it's complex, yet also I can understand what's going on. It's relatively easy. You have to kind of focus on some of the things that, like, as our main character is learning things, we are learning things as well. And so he is figuring things out. And you kind of have to, it's a very like school education setting. So it's a little info dumpy at times, and so you kind of have to focus on that. But otherwise, I think it's really interesting. And what I liked is that this author took what we know about the solar system and science and our world and the other planets and everything, and basically just made dragons. And then like anything that like you and I could go, oh, plot hole in our world, blah 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 blah, blah could happen. This author has been like, yes, and here is why in this world that is still true, but also there's this. And so he takes everything. There aren't, that I have found, there are no plot holes, because he has taken everything from our world and just amplified it and made it all make sense. So anything that you could have brought up as a possible conflict, the author said, nope, here's why. And I just really liked that. I thought it was very interesting. And I think we're going to continue to learn a lot about this world in the second book, because we have the second book in the title has the Neptune is in the title somewhere. And that's a planet / dragon that we haven't seen yet. And I'm excited to see how the world is going to be expanded with the second book. I was very pleasantly surprised. I mean, I thought I was going to like it because, like, this is a recommendation from my best friend Lauren. When she recommends me things, they have always been good. So I suspected that this would be very good, but it took me a while to get into it because I just needed to wrap my brain around it, and that's a me thing. So very well done if you like dragons, and if you like the idea of, like, you know how like in Fourth Wing the person is like paired with a dragon and is like chosen by a dragon. It's kind of the same vibe in here, but make it sci-fi, and also it's not romance. So if you like the idea of, like, if that's what you enjoyed about like fantasy and Fourth Wing specifically, and you're looking for more dragon content like that, here's a series that could be fun for you. I liked it. I thought it was very well done. So thank you, Lauren, for recommending that, because very well done. I liked it. And then the final book that I read in the month of April was the second volume of Cherry Magic by Yu Toyota. I really enjoyed this one. I gave it 4 stars. I liked the first volume more. I think the romance took a pretty big step in the first book, and then took not a backseat, but like basically like took 1 step forward, 2 steps back with this book, because basically, let me back up and tell you what this book's about. This series follows our 2 main characters. We have Adachi and Kurosawa, who, can we just talk about the fact that I actually know the names of the characters in the mangas, because I never know names of characters in mangas? I feel like that says something. Adachi, at the very beginning of the series turns 30, and he is still a virgin. And surprise, in this world, if you happen to be 30 and a virgin, you can hear people's thoughts, but only if you like are physically touching them. Like if you bump their arm, you can hear their thoughts, but only as long as you are connected. And so he's discovering this new power that he has, and he runs into this guy, Kurosawa, who he works with, not like directly, they're more acquaintances than anything. and discovers that Hirasawa has a huge crush on him, and he is like blindsided by this information and does not know what to do with this information. And so the first book is him kind of figuring out this power that he has, kind of dealing with it, dealing with the fact that he has this guy in his life that is becoming a bigger part of his life that has a very big crush on him. But also, does he have feelings? But like the main book is really just him figuring out what's going on around him. This book starts to dive into him and trying to like figures out if he has feelings for this guy as well. Is one of those things like, oh, he likes me, I like him, or is it, do I actually have feelings for him? And so again, like I said, it kind of takes a backseat because we mostly follow Adachi, and he kind of like figures out some stuff. He's never been in a relationship, so he feels like he's also not worth like someone loving him, and no one would want him because he hasn't had any experience, and he kind of like is dealing with those topics and mentions it to Hirasawa, and he gives him like the best answer of like, that doesn't matter. If it was me, I would really like I would appreciate you, and he gives him some answers that like he didn't expect, and so now he's like, okay, now what? So I'm excited to see where the third volume goes, but like I still really enjoyed this story. I just think the first one was better. I think I was more invested in the first one, so I'm excited to see where we go. This one kind of ends on a cliffhanger, to a spot where like the next volume we're gonna have a lot of forced proximity, and I'm very interested to see where things go from there. Based on the cover of like I think the 10th volume, I know how this relationship ends, which is fine. I don't mind being, I wouldn't say spoiled, but like I don't mind knowing where it's going to go. I'm excited to see how we get there, you know? So I don't know. I really liked it. Oh, I thought it was well done. These are not very long volumes. These are really, really short volumes. So I'm excited to dive in. It's just cute. They're just really cute together, and I like them. So that's it. I think we've done it. We've made it to the end of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know, as always, if you have read any of the books that I mentioned in today's video, what your thoughts on them were, or let me know how your April went, how your reading went. Did you participate in the Magical Readathon? How did that go? If you didn't, let me know what some of your favorite books were, or if you need to rant about a book. I'm actually currently reading a book that I need to rant to someone about because I have thoughts. So if you need to rant, I feel you. Feel free to leave that down below. And if you want to comment, but you're not sure what to comment, comment candles for 13th Child, because there are candles all over the cover, and also candles are a pretty big part of the plot. Also, just, read it. But if you liked this video, and I very much hope that you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe down below if you'd be part of this awesome growing family. I've also got all my social media down there, as well as all the fun bookish links, so check all that out, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.